Hey everyone, it is me, Coral Renaie, back with another series. Okay, I don't know if this is really like its own series. I've just been coming across so many BuzzFeed articles and just articles online in general that are making me really want to record about them. And I have been doing my token talk with Coral Renaie, and right now I am kind of having a weird time because it's really hard for me to go to sleep for some reason. I can't sleep lately. So I'm up and it's not really a token tuck in. It's not really a toke talk and tuck in situation. This is like, I can't sleep. What are we doing here? Anyways, it is October, and one of the articles that I found, I was going through to see what I have saved. And one of the articles that I found that I have saved is from a while ago. I'm not going to lie, it's from a while ago. I'm going to include the link in the comments or in the description, I mean. But essentially, what this is, I mean, aptly in time for Halloween, what our BuzzFeed says true 67. I'm probably not going to read all of them. We're probably not going to read all 67. I don't know. But 67 real life scary stories that will freak you the hell out, according to BuzzFeed. So, yeah, I kind of just wanted to go through and, have fun. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this article because, yeah, I'm ready. Okay. So this first one says, wait, oh, sorry. I guess this is actually a note from the author. It says, I grew up in a haunted house. From the ghostly violin music that played in the guest room at night to the exciting sorry, to the excited whispers we'd hear throughout the house after returning from vacation, something was very out of the ordinary. It says, so why am I telling you this? Well, to prove that countless people in BuzzFeed community, myself included, have lived through supernatural experiences they just can't explain. Here are some real life scary stories that I can't get out of my mind. Okay. So that's like the little disclaimer beforehand. Sorry, Elias just texted me. Okay. So let's get started with this first one. And please bear with me. I am trying my best to figure out what the best way to record these are. And right now I am currently holding the article on my iPad, so we'll see if this works. Okay, so story number one. My aunt used to live in this old house that everyone in the family joked was haunted. On Christmas, she woke up and went down to the living room to find all of the sofa cushions arranged into a cross on the floor. Only she and her husband lived there, and they both swore that neither of them did it. Interesting. So they just found their couch cushions arranged in a cross. Honestly, as a spiritual girly, it always is so interesting to hear what kind of experiences people have with I just feel like when it comes to in the realm of the Christian God. And so to find a cross, like I don't feel like that would inherently be scary to a Christian, but I mean, me coming down, I don't know. Okay, anyways, but I could be wrong. Okay, number two. At almost the exact moment my grandfather died, the large mirror over the entrance at the staircase of our family cabin cracked down the middle. Since then, several times when my mom and her siblings have discussed their dad, they found or heard broken or breaking glass. That one's kind of crazy. It says once every glass on a shelf broke spontaneous or okay. Once every glass on a shelf spontaneously cracked. Another time all the glasses on the dishwasher broke. They always say my granddad loved living so much and couldn't stand dying so soon. So this was his way of coming back. I mean, what a way to come back. You're just breaking glasses. And I mean, you can't really when you're alive because it's like a lot of bad luck, is it not? He's just running around breaking all these mirrors. I guess not the glasses, but I don't know. That one seems like a lot. And I mean, dangerous. There's just broken glass everywhere. Anyways, number 3. My sister and I were home alone playing with Barbies, and we sat a Ken doll on the couch. We threw Barbie in his direction, and both of us saw him lift his arms and catch her. She wasn't out of place. She landed perfectly in his arms. We were stunned and tried recreating it multiple times, but had no luck. We were creeped out and left him in a drawer untouched for months. But I mean, like, he's just trying to get his girl. Like, you know? What kind of Ken would allow his Barbie to just fall? And then how dare them for continuing to throw her? No. That's kind of funny. Okay, number 4. When my sister was 12, she was seriously ill in the hospital for several months. Her class brought her a teddy bear, which became her mascot while she was having treatment. Shortly before she was discharged, the bear went missing. We assumed that it had been stolen. One day after she'd been home for a week or so, the bear appeared on her windowsill. The weirdest thing was that it had muddy paws as if it had walked there. Ooh. Okay, that one is kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie. But also, that cute little teddy bear needed to come and get his girl. Oh, interesting. That one was an interesting one. It's like every kid's, I don't know about you all, but when I was a child, my worst fear, it wasn't even my worst fear. I just genuinely believed that like all of my stuffed animals were alive because of Toy Story. I mean, of course, it was, of course. So many of us believed that our toys were alive because of Toy Story. But, like I would have to give them all like equal amounts of attention before going to sleep so that way nobody felt left out and that way no one was salty while I was sleeping. I don't know. Because in my head that made sense. But I don't know. Okay. Let's see here. The next one says, this is the 5th one, by the way. I still don't know if we're going to get through all 60 of these, but I mean, we're kind of trucking along, so maybe. Number 5 says, my grandmother was very sick and dying. For a few weeks leading up to her death, she would stare off into space and talk to dead relatives. She'd say things like, I'll see you soon, Alice, or I'm coming soon, Mabel. She would always name deceased relatives. Then one day she started talking to my brother, Henry. We thought it was weird because Henry was still alive, but we got a call the next day that Henry had died the previous day. Oof. I've heard a few ones like that recently where like someone who is very close to death is essentially alerting the rest of the family to a sudden death of a loved one that has happened, and it usually is a younger relative, and everyone's like, how are you seeing them, and then realizing that an accident has happened. So that's interesting. Number 6, my family and I used to live in a cult when I was younger, and while we were there, we experienced a lot of supernatural events. I now choose to explain these events as shared psychosis due to the trauma, but there's one event that happened a little bit after we left that I can't explain. It was in the middle of a really bad storm, and because of lightning and the threat of tornadoes, we were all hiding in the safe place we were all hiding in the safest place in the house. During a huge crack of thunder, we heard the sound of shattering glass in the living room. After it was safe again, we went back out, and the globe on one of our lamps was missing. We searched everywhere for it and the broken glass, but it had just vanished. I can't explain it because it wasn't just seeing or hearing inexplicable things. We physically had the globe, and then it completely disappeared. That's wild. And honestly, like, really would kind of fuck with your mind. Like, being in a cult and having these shared psychosis moments with a group of people versus like actually having like an intense spiritual like experience or like supernatural experience, and then afterwards not being able to like distinguish the difference because of the trauma. Mara. I mean, eventually you would be able, if you are someone who is in that situation, and like seriously, because I have met several people who have escaped cults and sex trafficking situations. If you are in that situation, it is possible to undo that trauma. It is just going to be a lot of work. But don't give up hope. All right, number 7. My mom lost her wedding ring a few years after her and my dad married. They tore the house apart and they never found it. Eventually, they moved away and she got a new ring. A year or so afterwards, my dad's mother died. A few days after the funeral, my dad was away and my mom fell asleep on the couch. She opened her eyes and saw her old wedding ring on the arm of the sofa. No one had been in the house except her, and it definitely had not been there when she dozed off. My mom isn't religious, but she's convinced that her mother in law found it for her. That's a really sweet one. That's really cute. I like that. I like it a lot. Also, it reminds me for some reason of the. I don't know if any of you watch Bob's Burgers, but when Bob buys Linda that ring for their anniversary and it gets lost at the pool, and then the bird ends up taking it and it ends up like in their sign above their restaurant. I just have a theory that one of these days it has to fall down. It has to. And then the ring is just going to be sitting there and Bob is going to be like, "Oh my god, Linda, it's the ring." I really feel like it's going to happen. And for some reason that story reminded me of it. So, Bob's Burgers creators, don't let me down. Because I have been planning on this ring return for a very long time. Anyways, number 8 is so short. It says, I went to a funeral and saw the deceased standing next to her own casket at the front of the church, which I have heard a lot of. I've heard a lot of like, okay, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Okay, I'm not editing out any audio, so that was your warning, and sorry. Okay, but anyways, I have heard a lot of these where like people will meet like the deceased in the back of the church or whatever, or like, like the ushers who are working or someone that doesn't even know the deceased will be back there talking to a very pleasant person, and then they'll go up to the front and like see that it's the dead person. Like, I don't know, I've heard these stories so many times, but I just feel like that one's like a classic of like, you go to the funeral, you see the deceased standing next to their casket. I don't know. Anyways, number 10, or no, this is number 9. One time, my mom called me to let me know it was time for us to head somewhere. I walked out of my room and I saw her out of the corner of my eye walking to her room. Oh, my story's just disappeared. Give me 1 second. See, this is the issue with not like doing the editing. Editing is a lot of work. It really is. But then you get all the awkward pauses, and sometimes it just happens. Okay, my internet's not working. This is why I was wondering if we were going to have to do this on my iPad or the laptop. So give me 1 second here. We can just switch over really quick because this is not working. Okay. We are just on an unofficial pause. Anyways, these stories, I guess I can talk to you about why I really wanted to, or why these interest me, which I've always been very interested in the spooky, paranormal, whatever. I had a very, I had a lot of paranormal experiences growing up. And as a medium, I talk to spirits a lot. So it's just, something that like really interests me. It is affirming to me, like when other people have experiences, I guess I would say, because it makes me feel less alone. It makes me feel less crazy. Um, because, it's odd having unexplainable things happen to you. And it's just humans like to discount a lot and say that, you know, just like they like to discount a lot of things that people say, or like make people feel as if they are lying, or people are very hesitant to believe others. But like when you experience something that you cannot explain, like it's just, it's it makes you feel more kinship with others. Like I guess is the way, like it makes you feel, like I said, less alone, really, you know. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and look for this article. For some reason, it has disappeared off of my saved on the um do 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 on my saved for Facebook. Okay, hold up. We are going to. Yeah, this is 16, not 67. That's kind of funny. Hold up. Hold up. I was looking for the 67, so maybe it's at the beginning. I swear it said 67, but now that I'm re-looking at this article, it says 16 spooky stories. So let's see. Do 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 do. I know this one is a little rough, but I have so many things saved here that I really want to do and talk about. Okay. Just like going through. There's some that are like 18 Harry Potter Tumblr posts that will make you feel your feelings. Or like, oh, here we go, 16 real life ghost stories that'll freak you the fuck out. That's what I was just reading. And then you click on it and it says 67 real life scary stories that'll freak you the hell out. That is so funny. Okay. All right, let us get back to where we were, shall we? I'm so sorry that my nose is so stuffy. Please excuse. Okay, here we go. Her mom called her to let her know that it was time for them to go somewhere, right? Okay. So she walked out of her room. She saw her mom out of the corner of her eye walking into her room. So I followed her, calling her name, and once again caught a glimpse of her, this time walking into her bathroom. I walked into the bathroom, and no one was there. My blood ran cold, and I called out to my mom. She had been downstairs the whole time. I personally have had this happen to me a lot where, like, I think my mom's calling me, or I think someone else is calling me. I hear my voice or my name being called, and no one, it's no one. it's, that's like one of the creepiest feelings. Okay, so number 10. When I was 6, I spent a long weekend at my friend's house in Montana. I slept on the floor of his room in a sleeping bag. One night, I sat up, covered in sweat and shaking. I was 100% awake. Then I watched as a grim reaper like figure floated from the shadows to the other side of the room where there was a wall. He peeled back the wall as if it was a curtain. And then I saw my home city at dusk covered in flames with people screaming. He pointed at the city and said, "This is how it ends." I ran to the bathroom and stayed there for the rest of the night, and no one believes that it happened. That's wild. What kind of premonition is that? You see this Grim Reaper? He's like, your town is going to end in flames? Like, is he talking about the town specifically? Is he talking about the world? Like, what is he talking about? Creepy. Though I do want to know what town it is and if it's doing okay. These stories were from 2022, just so you know. So, semi recent. Okay, so one night when I was around 15, my best friend and I stayed home alone at her house while her parents were away. The house had a long driveway off the road and was surrounded by woods. It snowed that night, and in the morning when we were leaving, we found footprints that went all the way down the driveway and stopped by the back of the house. There were none leading away. We left immediately, and she refused to go back until her parents were home. Nothing was messed with, no windows appeared broken, and nothing was stolen. It was just weird. Oof, creepy. I wonder if like a cryptid came up and just like stood by the door. It was just waiting to be let in. That's the creepiest thing. It's almost like something came out to the door and was just like waiting to be let in because there's like no footsteps away. So like, I would not open that door again because I feel like it would just be standing there waiting. Okay, anyways, it's creeping me out. All right. Number 12. About 15 years ago, my younger sister and I were having a movie night in the living room. My parents were asleep and our older sister was out with her friends. As we were getting ready to sleep in the living room, we heard a deep and raspy voice whisper my name from the room around the corner. We both looked at each other, freaked out, turned off the TV without telling each other what we just heard. The next morning, I asked her to tell me what she heard, and she confirmed that she heard my name. To this day, we do not know what it was or why it said my name. Okay. First of all, who turns off the TV when you hear noises? No, I'm turning that shit up. Especially if I'm feeling something creepy and it feels supernatural. Like, if I know that it's not a human and I'm like, something supernatural is happening, I'm not, if I'm not ready to deal with it, you turn that TV up and you just ignore it, baby. You just ignore it. It's not there. It doesn't exist. And then it goes away. Spirits are a lot like, spirits are like that. If you give them attention, they're gonna love it. But you don't give them any attention, like they're like a fuck boy. Just don't give that boy any attention. Okay? Anyways. Number 13. My younger sister lost the only key to her lockbox. It just vanished. A few months later, we were sitting in my bedroom and we heard what sounded like a piece of metal hitting the floor. We looked around, but we couldn't see anything. We looked back to where we were sitting, and there was the lost key. We told our family about it, but we can't explain it. Okay, so I don't know about you, but growing up, I was raised Catholic. And I believe it was St. Anthony. I think it was St. Anthony that you would pray to for like to return your lost items. I'm not sure if that is who it actually was. You'll have to look it up. Look up the patron saint of lost items. I'm not, but like I was under the impression that this is kind of how that would work. But now that I'm older, this is really funny because I'm going to base this opinion off of Hilda, a cartoon on Netflix, which if you have not seen, it is adorable and you should totally watch it because it's really good. But in Hilda, they talk about the concept of Nissa, which I'm sure is not originated from Hilda because they talk about a lot of like different types of like creatures and lores and things. But Nissa are specifically these creatures who live in the nowhere spaces, like under your refrigerator or like, in those areas where are in your home that like behind the refrigerator or behind the TV or underneath the chair, behind the chair, like places that you don't go, that you don't store things. That's where the Nissa lives. And so anytime that I'm hearing these stories of like things just reappearing, anytime we have anything that goes missing, we like to tell our Nissa like, hey, can you give it back? But I'm just thinking of like even in Catholicism, there's the patron saint of lost items who is supposed to help find items and return them. And that is pretty much the process every single time that I've had a family member, which I have had quite a few, who have said that they've prayed to the patron saint of lost items. I want to say it's Saint Anthony, but I'm not sure. And but anyways, they've prayed to them and have gotten their item back. And it was a very similar situation. Like, I do remember a specific person telling me that they had lost a necklace and found it in that exact same way, where they heard metal hitting the floor and turn around and boom, there it was. And like, that is so creepy because I just like imagine it floating and then it's just like drops, like, I don't know. And you just, ugh, I don't know, creepy, but also kind of cool. So, okay. So this one says, this is number 14. I had a dream where I was engaged to a man named Boole. When I woke up, I thought it was weird, but I went about my day. I had a little weed that evening, and I had the worst panic attack of my life. I went to the hospital, and my doctor's name was Dr. Boole. That one's kind of funny. Honestly, okay, but I had a dream the other day that we were trying to claim something for like the name Greer. Like, I don't even know where this name comes from. And then, like, a couple days later, I'm watching Hannibal, and that's the name he uses. He says his name is like Greer. It's the name that he uses to basically get information about, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm watching. It pops up, and like, does this ever happen to you where you like have a dream about a specific name and then it pops up? It is so weird. Like, I don't know. Ugh. This is why I like reading these paranormal stories, because I feel like there's just something, I don't know, for everyone. I feel like everyone can identify with most of these. Ugh. And if you can't, I don't know. This is making me feel very affirmed. No. Anyways, all right, number 15. I was driving to work one morning when a school bus suddenly overtook another parked bus and came straight for me with no possibility of stopping in time. I was terrified and closed my eyes, expecting it to hit my car. But when I opened them again, I was about a half a mile up the road. There was no possible way that this bus could have managed to stop in time before hitting me, so to this day, I cannot explain what happened and how I ended up further up the road. Okay, I know I have been saying this about every single one of them, but I swear, Elias and I experienced something like this, except for it wasn't like a car crash or anything. It was just such a freaking weird ass experience. We swear we were like abducted by aliens. And I know this sounds kind of crazy. I know it sounds crazy, which is why we haven't talked about it. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, congratulations, you're getting like, the lowdown. But we were driving in Colorado on this street called Yale, and we were going like in one direction. If you know anything about this Yale street, you may know where James A. Bible Park is in Denver. We were headed towards James A. Bible Park. Somehow we end up like completely on a whole other section of Yale, traveling the opposite direction by a Walgreens. Like, it was insane. It was wild. I don't know. But that's what that reminds me of. And yeah, you're welcome. Okay, number 16. So there definitely are more than 16, because it looks like they might have updated this. It looks like it started out as 16 stories, but now it's 67. So we'll see how many we get through, because we're already pretty far into this. So I might do 20 or so. I don't know. We'll see how we go. All right, number 16. I had a ring my mom gave me many years ago. I lost it a few years after she died. I looked everywhere. I was so upset, I finally said, "Please, Mom, help me. I can't bear to lose this." I had dumped out my jewelry box 4 times already, but I decided to open it one more time. The ring was sitting on top. Ugh, love those stories. All right, 17. When my beloved dog died a little over a year ago, she was on the East Coast with my boyfriend while I was on a trip on the West Coast. So sad. The morning she passed, I learned the news from a terrible phone call before driving to the airport. I was absolutely hysterical and bawling the whole time. I was talking to my girl, telling her I was sorry and I loved her. It was awful, the deepest despair I have ever felt. When I saw the license plate of a car passing by, it said, "It's HB." We called our dog HB, short for Harley Bear. I like to think that somewhere she was sending me a message that she was still out there and that she could hear me. Oh, that's so sweet. Number 18, my boyfriend and I went shopping at this small boutique in a strip mall. We went in, got our stuff, and left, which took about a half an hour. When we checked our watches, 4 hours had passed. To this day, neither of us can explain it. It was in the middle of the day. We weren't drunk or high, just shopping at a very small strip mall. It's probably like one of those places with like, I don't know, I can't remember what they're called. I want to call them a paradox, and that is not what it that's not what it is. But I don't know, there are just some of those places where you're like in a weird zone and time travel happens. All right, number 19. When my dad was around 9, he had a pet salamander that he found by the lake. One night, his older sister, my aunt, had a dream that she ate the salamander. When they woke up the next morning, the salamander was gone. They never found it or figured out what happened to it. We still wonder to this day if my aunt actually ate the salamander. Ugh. That's so gross. But honestly, what if she did eat it? That'd be wild. Ugh. All right, back in 2017, this is number 20. Back in 2017, my uncle died very unexpectedly. At the end of that year, I was on a class trip to the UK and we visited the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Ireland was a place my uncle wanted to visit but never got the chance to. So my aunt sent me with a necklace that had some of his ashes. She asked if I could spread them while I was there. I said, of course. While walking around the cliffs of the Giant's Causeway, I found the perfect area overlooking the sea. My friends made a barrier around me, and I quickly gave a couple taps to the necklace and screwed the cap back on. We walked around this bend to continue our exploration, and I turned around to see a rainbow over the sea that hadn't been there 10 seconds before. I know it might sound like a coincidence to some people, but I think it was my uncle. Oh, that's a cute one. And honestly, looks like her name is Beatrice, and I would agree. I believe that it was her uncle too. All right, number 21. One night, I dreamed that my grandparents were having an anniversary party, much like their 50th anniversary party I'd attended in my 20s. I saw my grandparents together, but then thought that can't be. Grandpa's dead, but not Grandma. Then it clicked, and I realized they were both dead. The next morning, my parents called me to tell me my grandmother had died overnight. I simply said, I know. She told me. Ugh, that's so sad. I actually, when my grandma passed, she was very close to me, like a mother. Like, she and I were very, very close. And when she passed, it was very, very hard to me. But she came to me in a dream, and I really felt like she showed me exactly where she was. And she actually, in my dream, showed me this giant, ornate, like golden hotel. And we talked in her hotel room for a while. Um, and she like kind of explained to me, because I was a very young child. I was like 9 years old, I think. And she explained to me, that she died, that she would not be coming back physically, but that she would always be there. And it was the only way. Like, I was having such a hard time like letting go of her. And honestly, that was the only way that I was allowed, or like that my body like actually like allowed me to let go of her, was having that dream. So like, I don't know. Some of us just need that extra communication, I think. I mean, especially young kids. But okay, number 22. When I was in school, whenever someone died in one of my dreams, they wouldn't be at school the next day. Sometimes they were sick, or a few times they were just very late to class I had with them. But it was freaky. One time I even texted a friend who lived in another state to ask if they'd gone to school that day because they had died in my dream. They had, in fact, not gone to school. I want to know how old this person was, because, like, that is so interesting. That, like, someone dying would mean that they're not going to school? Like, geez. That's kind of wild, you know? Anyways, okay. So, number 23, a few years ago, I lost a necklace and I tore my house up looking for it. I finally gave up, and about 6 months later, I found it under my pillow one morning. It was as if the tooth fairy had left it for me. I had washed the sheets many times since losing the necklace, and it was a very heavy pendant, so it wasn't something that would easily go unnoticed in the wash. I still have no idea how it ended up there. That is interesting. Like, all these found, oddly found things, you know? Number 24, I've had sleep paralysis a few times, but one specific time I was able to open my eyes. I could stare at the ceiling, but I couldn't move my body. I heard a voice say, relax. I was so freaked out after that. Of course, I lived alone too. Yeah, that's not, that is not helpful. Thanks, sleep paralysis demon. Thanks for telling me to relax. Like, no. Oh my God. Okay, number 25. My ex died in 2015. It was the single worst thing that has ever happened to me. He had joked that if he ever died, he would haunt me for fun. 2 nights after he died, I heard a noise outside, a familiar noise. Every time he would try to stand up from one of my patio chairs, his key ring would get stuck and his guitar shaped beer opener would make this certain metallic clang. This was, without a doubt, what I heard. My dogs both got up and started barking. I went outside and there was no one there. Oh, that is so sad. But honestly, kind of cute, but also very sad. All right, number 26. When I was a teenager, I once stayed at my boyfriend's house because of a storm. There were only 2 bedrooms, so his parents made him sleep on the sofa while I had his room. Everyone went to bed. I remember his room was very cold. I was settling down. I was settling down when I heard creaking on the stairs outside the door. I giggled because I thought my boyfriend was coming into the room. I covered my head with the blanket and decided to give him a scare. I heard the doorknob turn around I heard the doorknob turn and the door creak open, and then I heard him walking across the floor towards the bed. I heard him breathing heavily right at the head of the bed. I whipped off the blanket and said, boo! And then I screamed because I was face to face with a dark mass with glowing eyes. Not my boyfriend. Pandemonium ensued as my boyfriend ran up the stairs and his parents came out of their bedroom. I was hysterical. Everyone said I just had a nightmare and that it was all right. I stayed downstairs all night and no one got any sleep. Ooh, that is creepy. Interesting. That is so creepy. I just wonder if her boyfriend, I wonder if he has had any experiences in that room. Like, could you imagine though? Like, you hear, she thought she heard her boyfriend coming into the room. She covered her head with the blanket. Like, she heard the doorknob turn. Then she heard it creak. That is so wild. She heard him breathing heavily right at the head of the bed. Like, that is so creepy. And I just really want to know if he has had any experiences. Okay, number 27. I have a habit of reading before bed. One night I finished reading, set my book on the nightstand, and put my glasses on top as I always do. The next morning, the glasses were gone. I knew I had had them because my vision is too bad to read without them. At the time, I didn't have a backup pair, so the next day my parents came and helped me look all over my apartment, but they were gone. So they took me to get a new pair. Months later, I went through the same nighttime routine, and when I woke up in the morning, both pairs of glasses were sitting on top of the book that I had been reading. Okay, I'm telling you, it's the Nissa. The Nissa sometimes take our things and they need to use them. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but they like to use the things. Sometimes they like to take our lighters, and I'm sure that that's a very common item for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people misplace their lighters. It's a very common theme. So I just feel like the Nissa like these little things, like lighters that have little flicky things and things to play with, and it seems kind of fun and kind of cool. And honestly, a lighter is a very useful tool, so maybe they're using them. Who knows? But maybe they just needed to use those glasses, and then they realized, oh, you use these, so here you go. They give them back. I don't know. But for me personally, whenever I lose my glasses, I always have to look under the bed because usually they just fell under. It's a mess. All right. I've been trying to think if I'm going to stop, but I think we're just going to make this a really long episode and we're just going to keep going. All right, number 28. I woke up one night having to pee and I brought my phone to the bathroom. While walking down the hall and texting, I bumped into a girl in a white dress. I didn't look up, said sorry, and kept going. It occurred to me in moments later that I was at home, alone, and not in my bustling high school. The next day, when my boyfriend came to pick me up for the movies, he asked why I'd been staring at him through the upstairs window and why I changed out of my white dress. But I don't even own a white dress. That is so creepy. But honestly, the very first ghost that I ever saw was a little girl in a white dress, and she was holding a book and a candle. And I don't know, think about it a lot, so who knows? Number 29. I was home alone watching TV when I saw something moving in the master bedroom. I strained my eyes to see a man walking out of the closet to the other side of the room. He stopped, looked at me, put his finger to his lips, then turned around. There was blood on his face, and in the back of his head, the back of his head was missing. He vanished back into the closet. We moved when we found out that the mysterious small hole in the ceiling of our bedroom is from a previous tenant who shot himself in that exact spot. Oh my god. What? Okay, like, am I naive to be like, would they not fill that hole in? Like, is that not a thing? I mean, I guess not. Like, how would you just fill in like a circle of wood? But like, I don't know. Ugh. Whee. Okay. Number 30. I am a mortician. My most disturbing experience was when I was preparing a child for viewing and I felt someone pull my hair. A couple minutes later, I heard a giggle and the door slammed shut. All of my machines stopped and it was dead quiet. After I was done, the body was dressed. I felt a tap on my shoulder and warmth around the middle, approximately where a child would stand if they were hugging you. Oh, that's kind of sad. But I like to think was the child being like, thank you for taking such care to prepare me, you know? I don't know. Sad. Okay, number 13. When I was a kid, my family moved into an apartment where a murder had been committed before we lived there. Every night, my big sister would make me shut our bedroom window, and when I'd look outside, I'd see three faces staring back at me. They had no hair, noses, or mouths. They would just stare but never did anything. Well, a few months back, my family was talking about that apartment and I mentioned the faces. My sister turned to me shocked and she said that she saw them too, and that's always why she asked me to close the window. Ugh, creepy. Ew. I hate that. As a child, if I had seen anything looking into my window, I don't even know. I don't even know what I would have done. Ugh. Number 32. A few years ago, I was upstairs at my mom's house playing on the computer when I heard the front door open and my mom come in. She yelled, "I'm home," and seemed to be struggling with groceries. I ran downstairs to help her, but she wasn't there. Her car wasn't in the driveway either. Ugh, I have had that happen to me and I hate it. Hate it. Okay. Number 33. 2 years ago, I was half asleep when I felt as if I was being pulled off my bed by my legs. Suddenly, I shot straight up and I started violently choking. It took me a few minutes to catch my breath, and it was so bad that my mom woke up to check on me. Here's the scariest part. The next morning, my mom said she didn't even remember my coughing fit, but she had a dream that the devil was trying to pull me away from her. Oh, creepy. Like, ugh. I have always like been really afraid of like getting my legs pulled by an unseen force. Watching Paranormal Activity, oof, it creeped me out when I was younger. But I don't know. Just because like, I mean, you're getting dragged by this unseen force. Can you imagine? And then this girl like says that she shoots like straight up. And then I can imagine this entity just being like, no, and like grabbing her neck, like, ooh, aggressive, creepy. All right, number 34. When I was a kid, I lived with just my mom. Every few nights after she went to bed and turned off all the TVs, I'd hear a man and a woman casually having a quiet conversation in our kitchen area. I always wanted to concentrate really hard to make sure that I was actually hearing something because it was so faint I couldn't make out the words. This continued for years, and I thought my mom wouldn't believe me if I told her. After we moved out, I finally told her, and she said she always experienced the same thing. That's the thing. Talk to your family, you guys. Just talk to your people. Just talk to your people. You gotta talk to your people. Find out if you guys are all experiencing the same thing. You might just get seriously affirmed. But maybe that's what you don't want. So maybe that's why people don't talk to each other, because they don't want to get these things affirmed. They're like, please just let me be crazy. I don't know. It's your prerogative. Number 35. A few years ago, I was visiting my brother and his family who lived in a very old Victorian house. I was snuggling with my niece on a futon in the playroom when suddenly, in the middle of the night, the TV turned on full blast with static screen. My 3-year-old niece jumped out of bed and ran to the TV, shutting it off. When I asked her how she knew the TV would turn on, she shrugged, saying, "They turn it on every night at this time," and fell right back asleep. It's every night they turn this on. I had a TV that was turning on and off for a while, and eventually I got so angry I screamed at it. And I think one night, I think the last night, I went up and like hit the TV or something. And after that, it never happened again. I am telling you, if you are having paranormal issues, just get real firm. Get real firm in yourself. For real. Because they'll listen. They'll listen if you tell them to stop. I just like how that kid's just like, yeah, they turn it on every night this time. Okay. Number 36. My mom and I were working one day in the store we own when her cell phone rang. The caller ID said home with our number below it. She looked and calmly asked, "Who's at home?" My dad was at work, my sister was at college, my grandma, who used to live with my parents, had passed away about 6 months prior, but then I remembered we don't have a home phone. Because after my grandma passed, my mom shut off the landline since we all have cell phones. When we called the number back, it had been disconnected. Creepy. I do really like those. I used to hear those a lot. The stories of like people getting phone calls from loved ones. I am so sorry for all of the dinging and the. It's Elias. He's not having a good time at work right now. So. Sorry, I'm reading one of his messages. He's getting salty at work. You know, people. All right. Number 37. My mom bought me my first iPhone right before she passed away. After we lost her, I'd sometimes find Siri randomly open with a small conversation on the screen. This happened a handful of times. One day I was scared because I was starting a new job and I left my phone on the desk next to me. Siri was open and the screen said, "What you doing?" I burst into tears. "What you doing" was the phrase my mom and I used to greet each other on the phone. Oh, that's really cute. It's a little comfort. Number 38. In college, I lived in a notoriously haunted dorm. One night while my roommates were away, I was followed home from a party by a guy I rejected. He was drunk and aggressive after I told him to leave, and he grabbed my wrists, threw me against my bed. But before anything happened, he was ripped off of me. There were 2 large blisters on his shoulders in the shape of handprints, as though someone grabbed him and scalded him. He scrambled out quickly as I lay in bed crying. I sensed a very maternal presence rubbing my back. I was too distraught to care what it might have been. Honestly, I would be too. And like, thank goodness that ghost was there. Ugh. Honestly, if she felt a very maternal presence, this was most likely, and especially like the strength that this spirit had, has to be someone on her team. Like, I feel like this has to be like some type of ancestor, some type of guide, someone there that was protecting her for sure. Or, ooh, here's what here's another theory that I like. It is okay, I don't know if I like it because it's kind of sad, but dang, I didn't think about this. But anyways, okay, what if it is a woman who is protecting that college campus and she just goes around protecting college girls? That would be kind of crazy. Ugh. All right, readjusting. We are on number 40. So, I mean, if there is 67, we should be, getting kind of close. All right. And if you've stuck around this long, thank you. Thank you so much. We're almost an hour into this. I don't even know, how this is going to go with, uploading and stuff, but we'll see. Anyways, a few years ago, my boyfriend and I inexplicably woke in a panic in the middle of the night. We looked at each other, and at that moment, the framed large photo hanging on the wall crashed into the ground. I told him I'd been having a horrible nightmare where he was being stabbed to death. He freaked out, saying that he was having the same exact dream, except I was being stabbed. Later on, we both heard my mom yelling downstairs. She sounded scared and kept calling my name. This was particularly scary because we lived in California and my mom lives in England. Nobody was inside the house but us. He refused to sleep in my house ever again. That is so interesting. Okay, so she says that he refused to sleep at her house ever again. So I just wonder, was that his first night sleeping over? Was that I don't know. Was it an entity that's jealous? What was this? That's so creepy. Number 41. I don't know. I always want to look for, explanations. Even if the explanations that I'm coming up with don't really make sense. Okay. "41. When my son was a few months old, I was trying to record his laugh on my phone. I used to bounce him on my knee and say numbers before each bounce. When I played the recording back, you can hear my son laughing as I count 1, 2, 3, and after I say 3, you hear a man's voice clearly say 4. There was no one else in the house and the TV wasn't on. When I played it for my friend, she got goosebumps." Ooh, that's creepy. All right, number 42. I was sleeping alone in a room I share with my 6-year-old sister, but she wasn't home. She had a toy McDonald's cash register with a drive-through radio that would play a recording if you pressed a button. I was dozing off when I heard, "Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order?" from inside our closet. I investigated, took it out of the toy box, and turned it off before setting it on a shelf where it wouldn't be disturbed. About 20 minutes later, I was falling asleep and I heard a voice whisper, "I would like a chicken nugget, please." You bet I bolted out of there. The ghost just wanted some chicken nuggets. That one's kind of funny. All right. 43. I used to share a paper route with my brothers, and we delivered to a lady named Margie. Since she was old and lived alone, one of us would take the paper inside and check on her. One day I went in and she was asleep on the bed, so I put the paper on the table and left. The next day she was asleep again, hadn't opened the paper from the day before. Oh no. The following day I went in and Margie was awake. She was very happy and she gave me a big hug. But the next morning there were cars outside of her house. Apparently she had died in her bed 3 or 4 days before. I had just spoken to and hugged her about 24 hours earlier when she was already dead. Ugh. Oh my. I was wondering if that was where that was going. I'm like, did you not smell anything? That's horrible, but was there not a smell? All right, number 44. My great-grandmother's great-grandmother was the eldest of 8 children, and her bed was the deathbed of her father. At night, she would feel something grab at her legs, but when she'd look, there would be nothing there. Just yesterday, I was reading in that same bed, and I felt a yank on my right foot. I was home alone. Okay, first of all, why in the hell do you guys have your great-grandmother's great-grandmother's bed? And not only was it her bed, this was not her bed. This was her father's. This was her great-grandmother's great-grandmother's bed. No, this was her great-grandmother's great-grandmother's father's bed. and you still have it all these, get a new bed. That's disgusting. Like, I hope it is just like, I hope they're just talking about like the bed, like the actual like frame and not the mattress itself. But like, I don't know, for some reason it has to be, it can't be that same, I don't know. Like, I'm sure that this is just the bed frame. I don't know why I'm like sitting here imagining this nasty mattress, but like, I don't know. Anyways, that is so creepy. But like, I just feel like when someone dies on that juju, like it's just, I don't know. Anyways, number 45. I have major issues with driving at night, especially on long roads surrounded by forests, because my aunt used to tell me a Swedish urban legend about screechmayas. They are spirits of abused women who come out of the woods and jump in front of cars to make the drivers swerve and kill themselves. Jesus. Oh my god. Oh, that is wild. Okay, so this next one is about duendes, which honestly, I thought, I always heard, okay, well, never mind. I will just, all right, I'm going to read this and then we'll, yeah. Number 46. Duendes are dwarfs from Latino folklore that cause mischief. My grandmother's brother in law supposedly had a duende traveling with him. When you befriend a duende, they bring good luck. Whenever he gambled, he would win. However, he did something to upset the duende and it made him sick. They can bring misfortune if you upset them. The doctors weren't able to find a cause and he passed away, but a faith healer identified it as the duende's curse. That's interesting because I always heard that the duendes are like live in the walls and like they take kids like to raise. Like, interesting. So I wonder, I don't know. I would love to hear if there are any Hispanics, like, what are duendes to you? Like, what do you hear duendes do? Like, for me, I heard of duendes like almost, I mean, I guess kind of like a fairy, like they would steal the kid, like, and then, but like not to eat or anything, like they just raise the child as their own. I don't know. Okay. Next. Number 47. My great grandmother was very religious. On the first anniversary of her death, my relatives went to her home to mourn her. That night, my dad's uncle slept in the hallway since there were so many people staying over, and he woke up suddenly to my great grandma's voice calling his name. He felt someone grab his leg and pull him towards the stairs. He started screaming, and my relatives came out in the hallway, but they didn't see anything. That is so creepy. Like, why grab people's legs? Why drag people? That's the question. Number 48. When my dad was 4 years old, he went walking with his father outside. He stopped all of a sudden and said, "I just saw Grandma. She was waving goodbye." 2 minutes later, they got a call that my grandfather's mom had passed away. It's those warnings. Number 49. My parents are from the Dominican Republic, so stories of voodoo are common. One day, my father was walking home from school and he heard shuffling coming from a nearby farm. When he turned to look, there was a man walking in the field with blood dropping from his mouth and a dead look in his eyes. Later, my father found out from the newspaper that a man had been reported missing for 2 weeks, and the coroner confirmed that his death happened 4 days earlier. My father still swears to this day that dark magic had part in it. Interesting. He feels like he saw something with dark magic. That's really interesting. So he feels like a man had been reporting missing for 2 days, and the coroner confirmed his death 4 days earlier. Interesting. I mean, maybe they're saying like it's a reanimated corpse, like doing the work. Who knows? That's so creepy. Number 50. My aunt told us that her husband used to wake up in the middle of the night because he'd hear footsteps of chains. He would hear footsteps or chains dragging on the floor. One night he was fully awake and someone started choking him. He tried to fight them off, but there was nothing there. The next day he had bruises on his throat. Okay. So I know that I'm like, okay, well, I experienced this and I experienced this, but I really did. But when I was younger, I don't know who or if anyone is listening to this, but if you follow me on TikTok, I talked about the old lady who used to follow me as a child, like when I was the spirit of the old lady, and she used to leave marks on my neck, and that shit scares the crap out of me. Number 51. My mom swears up and down that she woke up in the middle of the night and her first thought was, we need to call to check on my father in law. When she turned over to wake my dad up, there was my grandpa. He was just standing over my dad, looking at him while he slept. My mom screamed and he disappeared. Within a few minutes, my parents got a phone call from my grandma letting them know that my grandpa had just passed. Yeah, coming to say goodbye. Number 52, my mom worked as a firefighter her entire life. While we were relaxing at home, one of her nights off, she went into cardiac arrest. Oh. The second her heart stopped beating, the toaster in the kitchen caught fire. It was unplugged, turned off, and nothing was in it. She ended up being okay, but no one could tell us why or how that happened. That is interesting. I'm okay, but I'm going to start this fire. That is interesting. Number 53, my grandfather was a jeweler and specialized in watches and clocks. When he died, all of the timepieces in his house stopped at the hour of his death. I find that very interesting. And also, I really want to know, because I just feel like clocks have such energy. And like, he specializes in watches and clocks. And so I wonder, like, I don't know, like, just like the way that they stopped, it almost feels like a sign of respect. Like, I know it sounds kind of weird, but like, I don't know, to me that's almost like, I don't know. I feel like every single person that I've ever met who like works on watches or can do things like that has a very special and specific, like, it is a relationship with watches. It is not like, I have never met anyone who's involved with watches that is not like that. But I mean, I've only met like 3-4 people. I've only met 3 or 4 people, but I mean, like, have you ever met someone who works specifically on watches? But anyways, like, you know, if you have, I would bet like that they were pretty, like, they have a relationship with those watches. Like, and like, it's almost like they talk to them in order to fix them. So I don't know. That just kind of, for some reason, that to me makes me feel like they had some type of connection. All right, we are almost done, y'all. We are on number 54. When my dad was a teenager, his bedroom was outside in a shed because, you know, teenage boys. One night he woke up and looked out the window into the main house, and he saw his grandmother, who had been dead for years, in the kitchen window. He freaked out and ran inside to see if it was really her. When he got into the kitchen, he looked out the window to see that his shed was in flames. It somehow caught fire and completely burned down. Wow, that is crazy. Ugh. And I mean, it's just like one of those protecting things. It's like one of those protecting entities, you know? Number 55, my grandma had an uncle who went to hell. He was having open heart surgery and flatlined for a few minutes. He said he had an out-of-body experience and was falling down a long, dark tunnel. It was unbearably hot. He said he knew he was going to hell. He eventually landed, but a voice told him it wasn't his time. He was pulled back up through a white tunnel and thrown back into his body. I wonder if he feels like that's where he's going still, or if he's like, I'm going to change my life. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of those people who have near-death experiences end up changing their lives. But I just wonder, like, for some reason in my head, like, this guy is just like, yeah, that's where I'm going. Like, I don't know. He's just like, doesn't care. Also, side note, my personal beliefs, you go wherever you believe you're going. Anyways, so if he's condemning himself to hell, that sucks. Number 56. My cousin's family lives in this literal mansion, but it was cheap. At first, they thought they got lucky, but then they realized that something must have happened here because the house deed changed hands quickly several times in a row. Yeah, okay, that is like such a classic haunted house sign. Since they moved in, they found a human handprint made out of ash on their wall. Their daughter was found talking to her closet, and they'll randomly hear loud screaming. They called a priest and he did an exorcism, but he said that their basement is dangerous and to keep the door locked at all times if they want to be safe. What? Like, excuse me, Mr. Priest, what do you mean? Okay. Number 57. My dad grew up on a farm that had cattle, and one morning they went out and found that a cow had been killed. They couldn't find any animal tracks in the dirt, and it looked as if it had been methodically cut open. This happened a few more times over the next couple years. They had investigators come out to look at the cows, but no one was ever able to determine who or what was killing them. Okay, ugh, aliens. It's aliens. It's aliens. And why? Why is it aliens? That's what I want to know, because this has happened in multiple places around the world, and a lot of these cows are found with no blood. And there's like no traces of how this blood would disappear. There's no traces of how this animal has died. And like some of them look like they have been dissected, like methodically cut open. Some of their like organs are missing. Like it is weird. It is weird what is happening to cows, and it is happening all over the world. So, I don't know. Ugh. Anyways, number 58. Not long after my grandpa died, my aunt was at her friend's house and they decided to mess with a Ouija board. They made contact with my grandpa, according to my aunt and her friends. There was a knock at the window, and when all three of them looked, they saw my grandpa in his deputy uniform waving from outside of the window. Ooh, that's so creepy. All right, we are on number 59, everyone. We are so close to being done. When I was 10 years old, we lived in Bell Gardens, California. My sister would always run to my parents' room at night, crying, saying that she heard a man talking. The house was older and had a crawl space under it. One night, we were all woken up by the sound of my dad screaming. He saw the man. The next day, a priest came to our house. It didn't help. The following weekend, my dad and his brothers went into the crawl space. They found a body wrapped in army blankets. They called the police and they were not allowed back in our home for a week. We moved out of that house the following year. Okay, what? They just found a... Oh my God. That is so weird. Ugh. All right, well, I mean, I guess that guy really wanted to be found, and I'm glad that he was. Number 60. My family has a spirit that has been a part of the lives of women in my family since my great grandma, and the spirit steals stuff. Sounds like a curse. Not anything in particular. It says not anything particularly important, but things that you want in the moment. If anyone is in the family is missing anything, we just say, "Okay, Sam, give it back, please." And whatever you're looking for will be in the next place that you look. Nissa. But this is weird. I mean, it follows specifically like the women of the family. So that is interesting. Number 61. This isn't supernatural, just creepy to think about and obviously passed down for generations. My great-great-grandmother bought a ticket for the Titanic but ended up not going because she got sick. Without that illness, there's a good chance she would have died and I never would have been born. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. That is my alarm, letting me know I need to wake up and unlock the door for Elias. Okay. I did not expect to go this long, but we are almost done and I am dedicated to this. Like, I am dedicated. Okay. All right. So now, I mean, that's so interesting. I have heard of a lot of like different things like that where like, you know, it's just like, it's almost like that barn one that we just read where that kid he was sleeping in the barn and then saw his grandma in the kitchen of the main house, runs to the main house and then sees that his barn is on fire. Like, it's not your time, boo. Not your time. All right, number 62. The house that my grandparents lived in during the 1950s was haunted. The spirit was called the Gray Lady. My dad remembers her tickling him when he was 4 years old. I went back to that house in 2013 and asked the owner if the Gray Lady was still there. He looked at me terrified and asked, "How do you know about that?" That's a ghost that tickles you. I would hate that. And I would hate it. Me and that ghost, we would be fighting. All right, number 63. I cannot stress enough that this is a true story because it sounds unbelievable. My great-great aunt was murdered by her husband. He was a sausage maker. He dissolved her body in a vat of lye. The investigating detective found her wedding ring. Oh my God, he found her wedding ring at the bottom of the vat. The newspaper spread a rumor that he turned her into sausage, and sales dropped across the country for years. Yeah, I would bet that they never buy. Like, what? Your family cannot keep making sausage after that, I feel like. I'm sorry, but like, you're not allowed. Privilege is revoked. Like, he ruined it for all of you. It's over. Ugh. Okay, number 64. My mom is the youngest of five, raised in a Catholic household. Two of her sisters, my aunts, found a Ouija board. They were playing around with it, asking harmless questions. Eventually, they asked the board who among them would be the first to die, which is a huge no no. And the planchette said it would be their dad. My grandfather, shortly after, was killed in an accident, and it was very unexpected. Mm-mm-mm. Number 65. When my great grandma was little, she had an imaginary friend who she said looked exactly like her. She told everyone that her name was Emily. It turns out she had an identical twin who died when they were 2 days old, and her name was Emily. Interesting. That's really like sweet and sad, you know, like that she's like kind of watching over her sister. She's just hanging out. All right, number 66. Our scary story wasn't passed down for generations, nor is it paranormal, just freaky. It happened to my grandparents. They lived in Tallahassee, Florida at the time. My grandma was working as a waiter, and one night, sorry, that was lies. One night, she noticed that a man had been following her around. Well, he ended up following her all the way back to their house. She ran inside, terrified, and my grandpa went outside with his shotgun. The guy freaked out and took off. A week later, they said they saw him on the news, and that's when they realized that the guy my grandpa had threatened with his shotgun was Ted Bundy. Oh my God. That would be so wild. I recently just heard another like recount of a woman whose grandmother was like ran into the Night Stalker. Ugh, that's just so creepy. All right. Well, and I know someone who personally ran into BTK like before he was caught in Park City, like just casually had a conversation with him at the gas station. I don't know. It's just wild. Anyways, number 67. On my great great grandmother's 6th birthday, she woke up in the middle of the night and went into the kitchen to get some water. Oh, and just so you know, this is the last one. Behind her, she heard the floorboard creak. She turned around and saw something run into the pantry. She finally shared that story recently, and we have heard from every woman in the family, including my mom, saying they saw the exact same thing on their 6th birthdays. That is so weird. She says, it's blurry in my head, but I do remember getting into the kitchen or going into the kitchen to get water and in the middle of the night on my 6th birthday. And recently, the morning of my daughter's 6th birthday, she told everyone that she had a friend hiding in the kitchen. That is so creepy. And why on their 6th birthday? So, okay, you turn around, you see something run into the pantry. What is the point of that? It doesn't sound like they're seeing it any other time. I wonder if it's waiting for someone to follow it in. Oh, that's so creepy. I don't know. All right, anyways. This post contained content from Hannah Dobrozgos, Anna Kopsky, and Allie Hayes. I am so horribly sorry for butchering your names. It was also put together and compiled by Laura Frataski. Frataski? I don't know. I'm the worst and did not plan on saying their names, but you know, I saw them and I thought they deserved the credit. Okay. Interesting. That was a very interesting read, honestly. And okay, it was a very interesting one to end on. I just cannot figure out what would be the point. Like, that's the thing, is I still keep thinking that something's waiting for them to follow it in. Like, it's like, which one of you? It's like, and I mean, this girl, her daughter says that she has a friend in the kitchen. What if, oh my God, what if the daughter followed it in? What if the daughter is the one and it's been waiting for one of them to follow it in, and the daughter is the one that actually like followed it in, and now it has, she's like, I have a friend in the kitchen. Ugh. What does it want? I need an update on this one for some reason. I don't know. I need to know. if there's any more kids who have seen this entity, like Ada now. But, anyways, this was a good time. Thank you all for joining me if you have. And yeah, there are so many things that are like different articles and things that I want to read through with you all. So we will do some more later. And yeah, there was one that I really want. I'm just like looking through here to see like some of the other ones that like I do have one that's saved that's like 13 creepy stories to keep you up for the rest of your life. Like I do have other spooky ones that I'll probably like focus on for Halloween. But then I do also have some that like I know I have one about men's mental health. Like it's not specifically about mental it was like something about like we asked men this question and their answers are surprising, like, and there's like relationship questions and answers, different things like that that I really want to go through. It's men are sharing things that secretly bother them but are rarely talked about, and I suddenly have a tiny bit more empathy for men. That was one that I want to discuss. And people exposing their relatives, coworkers, former bosses they hate with a passion. I'm really excited to read through that one too. But anyways, Elias is on his way home, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the home ready for him and get this possibly uploaded and done as soon as possible, because I don't know, I was really excited about this episode. I was really excited about being able to do it and finally getting the motivation to do this. And I hope that it's not too unbearable without any editing. And yeah, if you stuck around this long and are listening to this, thank you. I love you. And I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that if you could not sleep like I can't, that maybe this spooky story thing will help. I don't know how that helps, but you know, for me, true crime and stuff, it helps. Anyways, I'm a weird one. And for any of the other weird ones out there, I love you. I see you. And we will see you next time on this new little series of, I guess, I don't know, it's like Coral Renaie reacts or something. I don't even know. Like, I like Coral Renaie reacts. Maybe we'll keep it at that, because I don't know. All right. Okay. Anyways, I love you all. And we will see you next time on Coral Renaie Reacts, because that is the new name of the series. Yeah. All right. Goodbye for real this time.